Well, the White House releasing its national security strategy for America, only about 18 months late, which is the plan to keep you and your family sleeping peacefully at night. And you should feel very confident. And you know that climate is mentioned over 60 times. There's a bunch of pullouts right there. This while President Biden says America faces an Armageddon-level risk, just haphazardly. For more on this, we're joined by former Chief of Staff at the National Security Council and former CIA analyst Fred Fleitz. Fred, welcome.
Good to be here.
All right, so I actually went through this whole thing, and I read it, so you don't have to. I put my tabs on it and things like that.
Read it.
Oh, it's bad. And one of the things right on page 1, it said, from the moment I took the oath of office, my administration has focused on investing in America's core strategic advantages. Like oil?
You know, there's a lot of nonsense in here. It also talks about the election. But, you know, just to make a reference related to your last report, which was excellent, it says that the administration disagrees with the Chinese Communist Party, but doesn't say why. I mean, the reason is the Chinese Communist Party wants global domination.
Right.
But that didn't make it into the report.
Well, the only thing I actually saw that referenced that was another thing. It says, we've also reinvigorated America's unmatched network of alliances and partnerships to uphold and strengthen the principles and institutions that have enabled so much stability and prosperity. And I'm thinking, I'm like, this administration has literally failed on every foreign policy challenge they've had, no?
I think that's right. It says that we live in an era of competition, and we're going to outcompete the Chinese. This reflects the Obama-Biden view that America is not an exceptional nation, that we're not the leader of the free world, that we have to work with the UN and with our allies. And in short, and this is really important, this is not an America First document. That was the Trump national security strategy.
Right, well, exactly, and I remember reading that one, and to be fair, that one was like also not as late as this one, but it was a little bit late. But, you know, when you're talking about things like China, India even, India is not an adversary of ours, but climate change, when it comes to climate change, India is a vastly and rapidly developing country. China is producing carbon at a rate far higher than we are. We're actually the only country, only developing country or developed country that has actually reduced our carbon footprint. Yet this thing, 60-something times, it talks about climate change as the #1 problem facing the world. Why aren't we talking about building up our military?
I think, you know, there are some references to the military in there, but it's sort of passing references. Climate change is an obsession for the Democratic Party and for Joe Biden. They say it is the existential threat to our time. No, it isn't. China's the existential threat. Yeah. And when we bring up these trivial issues, it undermines our credibility on the world stage even more.
Well, and that's the thing. If Russia decides to try to turn Baltimore into a parking lot, then it doesn't matter what the temperature of the Earth is. And to your point, it says, of all the shared problems we face, climate change is the greatest and potentially existential threat for all nations. And I'm thinking, like, you know, I spent 9 years in and out of Iraq. And when I hear stuff like this, the Army is now changing things over to, like, learn how to plant trees to make it a greener. They're going to come up with a hybrid M1 Abrams tank. And I look at this and I said, the Democrats sold their entire existence as the adults in the room. How are we not having a more serious conversation about this?
You know, it really isn't a serious document. And let me give you another reason. There's these mass protests in Iran where women are risking their lives because Mahsa Amini was beaten to death by the morality police. There's not one reference to Iranian women in the whole document. There's a vague reference that we salute Iranians fighting for their human rights, but it doesn't mention that an Iranian woman was beaten to death or that these protests are for women's rights. I thought women's rights was a big deal to the Democrat. There's nothing about women's rights in Iran.
No, it only matters when it fits their narrative, Fred. You can't actually expect them to stand on the merits of their issues. But we were talking about oil in the beginning, and one of the opening segments of this, if you go read further into this thing, about the middle of it, it says, we've also experienced a global energy crisis driven by Russia's weaponization of oil and gas supplies it controls, exacerbated by OPEC's management of its own supply. No mention in there the fact that we were energy independent at one point. Why can't they address things as they are in reality?
These are lies. The administration's been lying about the causes of soaring gas prices. We all know that is because Joe Biden has reduced the ability to produce energy domestically. That's why energy prices are higher. This document is full of the lies we're hearing consistently from this administration to cover up from its failures on energy.
Yeah. They also talk about spending money, because that's what Democrats do best. They take your money, they tax the heck out of you, they light it on fire, and they flush the ashes down the toilet. And it says to outcompete our rivals and tackle shared challenges, America will need to maintain and refine its competitive edge by making critical domestic investments. That's what they call them, investments. And I got to ask, it's investments like the, I don't know, bullet train that was supposed to go up and down the West Coast that they spent $14 billion on and haven't built 1 mile of track yet?
Yeah, I think that's right. But see, these things have nothing to do with the national security strategy. There's very little about Iran. There's a little bit about Israel, but not nearly enough. And you know, I think there's one reference to North Korea. North Korea could soon conduct an underground nuclear test. The South Korean government thinks that could take place by mid-November. No reference to that.
Yeah, well, you actually mentioned Iran. One of the big other things they say, we look to more democracy, not less, to forge the path forward. Our democracy is a work in progress. Is this just word salad, or what does this even mean?
I don't know, and there's a lot of references like that. It's not a serious document, and as you said, it's over 18 months late. This is supposed to be produced in the first year of a presidential administration. The nuclear strategy has been late. The missile defense strategy has been late. The defense strategy has been late. What are they doing in the National Security Council?
This is not a strategy. It sounds like a term paper from a junior in high school with some buzzwords in it that they want to regulate you and I to do because they can't incentivize us. But I am deeply worried for our nation if this is their strategy. So, Fred Fleitz, we appreciate you being here, sir.
Good to be here.